Welcome back to the Ragged Coast Kitchen. I am Kate, and today I'm going to show you how to make a super spooky skull cake. The great thing about this project is that the cake pan does most of the work. So this is a skull cake pan. Yes, they make them. It is two-sided, so the back of the head and the face. And you bake your cake in here, and as long as you prepare it, the cake will come out flawlessly and it will look exactly like a chocolate skull. I recommend using a generous amount of baking pan spray, something like Pam or whatever you get at your local grocery store, and then dusting it with cocoa powder. We use our Dutch processed cocoa powder that we sell at Ragged Coast. You could use natural cocoa powder or Dutch, it doesn't matter, it's gonna have the same effect. It will make it so that flour, so most people dust with flour if they're doing a cake pan, it'll make it so the flour doesn't stick to the cake. We're making a chocolate cake and we don't want streaks of white flour all over it. So dust with cocoa powder, spray with baking spray to make sure that you have a really nice release from the pan. So this cake is perfect for a Halloween party, a Halloween birthday, a Day of the Dead celebration, that type of thing. It's October and you want to make something spooky, or maybe just somebody who really likes skeletons. I mean, there are people like that, you know, I know a lot of them. The first thing we're gonna do after we've baked our cake, we're assuming that you've baked your cake, and that's ready to go, we're going to make the chocolate glaze. For our chocolate glaze, we're using 10 ounces of our 71% bittersweet chocolate, 6 ounces or 12 tablespoons unsalted butter, and 2 tablespoons corn syrup. Why corn syrup? I know some of you are gonna ask me that, so I'm gonna tell you that corn syrup is like a magic ingredient. For chocolate glazes or ganache, it adds a really nice slightly satiny sheen to all it goes into. If you don't want to use corn syrup, you can use honey or golden syrup. It doesn't have quite the same effect on your glaze. I'm not going to join the Caro marketing team. However, if you're using a quality corn syrup that's not high fructose corn syrup, which you actually can't even buy in the grocery store. That is not an ingredient that is available to most normal people. Basic Caro corn syrup is just a glucose syrup. It's normally just labeled as sugar on most ingredients labels, so you're probably consuming corn syrup in packaged foods. I don't think it's that bad. It's glucose syrup made from corn. We're gonna place the chocolate, butter, and corn syrup right on a pot of just boiled and simmering water and allow it to melt. We've had our glaze ingredients melting over simmering water for a few minutes, and it's, I would say, about 2/3 or 3/4 of the ingredients have completely melted. There's still some chunks of chocolate and butter in there, and I'm gonna take this off the heat now and let it melt. This helps it when it's finished to be at the right temperature. So the trick with this glaze is that we want to use it when it's about between maybe 85 and 90 degrees, and that will give us the best final result. So we're just gonna set that aside and prepare our cake for glazing. All right, we want a cookie sheet lined with parchment with a little cooling rack on top of it. And then we're gonna take our cake. This is how it turned out right out of the pan. So again, I sprayed with baking spray, pan spray, and dusted with cocoa powder, and I got a perfect release from the pan. So we're gonna take the bottom half of the cake, and there's a little flat part there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can, well, let's just put it like that for now because we're gonna put a little, so use a little bit of your glaze, or if you have some frosting left over from a previous project like I do, you can use that. And this is basically filling the center of the skull, a little frosting to stick the face on top. It's all the frosting we need. So once we have that first layer of frosting down, we're just gonna put this aside for the moment, and we're gonna go to the face of our skull and apply the glaze. All right, so here's our face, and we're just gonna, this is at about 90 degrees. I can tell by feeling it, so it's at the right temperature. So we're gonna take the face and we're just gonna stick it right into the bowl of glaze. Now, try and be as gentle as possible. If you have a nice deep bowl that will fit the entire face, that's best. This bowl is a little shallow, but still works. All right, and then once we've got the glaze on it, we're gonna set it onto, all right. And there's a few little holes, but that's okay, because we're gonna drip a little glaze onto it. But we're really going for a nice smooth finish here so you can see all the nice details in the skull. And I'm putting more glaze kind of in the crevice there. So as you can see, the glaze is dripping down onto the parchment through the cooling rack. Also letting us glaze our cake without making a big puddle right underneath it. So it'll make it easier to transfer it to the plate. And once we have enough glaze on the cake, we're just gonna let it set. You can put it in the refrigerator to set it quicker, or you can just let it set at a nice cool room temperature. The great thing about this glaze is that it looks great at room temperature. Nice, and it has a nice sheen, again because of that corn syrup. We're gonna let that set until the frosting isn't so wet, and then we're gonna come back, transfer it to a plate, and decorate it. So our glaze has set just a little bit. It'll stay soft on the cake. It won't ever really harden like, you know, that magic chocolate glaze you put on ice cream. This is not that glaze. This is a soft, glossy chocolate glaze that is meant to stay at room temperature. So we are going to attempt to move the skull to a plate. I have a cake lifter. You can use a bench scraper or a wide spatula, and we're just going to slide it under and put it over on the cake plate. And we've got a leaner. It's leaning a little bit. All right, I think that looks good. I hope you noticed my nice spooky cake plate. It's got a old haunted mansion on it. I really love it. Before, when we were glazing the cake, I told you not to worry too much about the big crevice around the side. So we're gonna do sort of a Day of the Dead themed skull, and we're gonna actually put the flowers into that crevice. Just take a look at this guy. Yeah, he's kind of leaning, or they are kind of leaning a little bit. If you find that's happening and you don't like it that way, you can put something underneath here that will hold it up. Okay, that didn't do anything. Okay, So I've got a bowl of flowers here. When you're using real flowers to decorate cake, it's best if they come from your garden or a garden of somebody you know. That way you know they haven't been treated with anything. Also, it's pretty awesome if you can use flowers that are not poisonous. Because, I mean, it's, you know, I think you're pretty safe just so long as you take the flowers off and don't eat them, but no pesticides and non-poisonous flowers. These are chrysanthemums, which I believe are not poisonous to humans. I'm sure you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but again, we're not gonna be eating the flowers. So we're gonna decorate this like kind of a traditional Day of the Dead skull with big showy flowers around. And I'm gonna do this so that it's facing you. Normally I would turn it around and do it so I'm actually looking at the face as I do it. But for the sake of video interest, and you can get super precious with this if you want. I tend to just like to go with the flow, have things look really loose and natural. She reminds me of like an old lady in a salon that has just gotten her hair done. But this is our very seasonal skull cake with fresh flower decoration. Again, you can use any type of flower. These are chrysanthemums. I really think red roses look great as well with a little baby's breath. You can put all greenery or nothing at all. You can have a plain skull cake, which you know what that looks like. Perfect for a Day of the Dead celebration or a October birthday or just somebody who likes really spooky goth stuff. I love making this cake. It's really fun, very easy to do in your home kitchen, and of course, super delicious. If you have any questions, or if you want to tell me how much you loved this video, go ahead and comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I will see you next time in the Ragged Coast Kitchen.